We're honored today to have the dedication of the Easter Rising Monument, and on behalf of the Scituate Easter Rising Monument Committee, there's a number of people that need to be thanked. We'll start with the Scituate Board of Selectmen, Karen Canfield, who's here today, as well as Karen Connolly, Maura Curran, Tony Vignani, and Andrew Goodrich. Also, I want to thank the previous selectmen, both Sean Harris and in particular John Danahy. John was instrumental in keeping the momentum going to make this dream a reality. So John's support has been steadfast. I also want to particularly thank Lorraine Devon, who's been, she's the assistant to the Scituate Board of Selectmen. She's been a great help all throughout this process as well. I want to thank the Father John Murphy, Division 9 Plymouth of the Ancient Order of Hibernians, John Travers, the president, who's here today. Along with the town of Scituate, the Father John Murphy, Division 9 of the Ancient Order of Hibernians, has been commemorating the Easter Rising each and every April since the centenary in 2016. Now, to make this happen, there was a lot of help from a lot of people, and this, as you may know, was all funded through private donations, and there are a number of people who contributed. I'm not going to list them all here. I mean, that will be in the program that we have for the dedication that's going to happen in April of 2021. But in particular, I want to acknowledge Milton Monument Company with Seamus and Mary Ellen Mulligan, and also Vinnie Riccardi and Eric, who put this stone from a truck into this setting. Also wanted to thank the following people who gave of their time and their labor in the town of Scituate. Brian Jones of Rivermore Engineering, Steve and Chris Leach of Northern Oak Landscape, Tim Lopes from Go Green, Chris Kennedy of Kennedy Country Gardens, Ronnie and Cindy Simons of R&C Farms, and my brother William J. Sullivan Landscaping with Matt Blanchard and Dave Torrey. They actually did all the plantings you see and set the granite stones you see here today. And members of the Scituate Beautification Commission who helped us, gave us input as far as what the plantings would be. That would be Mary Ann Palaco, Leslie Powers, Pauline Souther, and Mary Tenaro. Thank you all, ladies. And finally, the members of the Scituate Easter Rising Monument Committee, Siobhan Hunter, Brenda O'Connor, Mike Schilling, and myself, John Sullivan, we worked to make this day happen. And finally, I want to introduce Maureen Ihady, who has regularly sung at the Briggs St. John Mass in Cohasset every year. This is the first time she's been down to Scituate to honor the Easter Rising. So we're honored to have her today. Maureen.
Good afternoon. I feel like I'm standing over in Rossmuck or somewhere because it's just nice and windy. Again, it's such an honor to be asked here. I had my beautiful gown ready for April, but that didn't happen the last time, so I hope it fits after the cocooning next year. But John asked me to come down to sing the anthem, and there's something really special about Oran na Bhíon. Tá rud a cíns iontach faoin Oran seo. I'm a native Irish speaker, so I find it hard to speak in English sometimes. But anyway, especially tá go leor daoine anseo bhfuil neart gaeilge go baineamh agus There are many here from Connemara today, or Connemara roots, and especially I just met a woman who came here at 12 and has held on to her beautiful Irish language. She is Bridget Mulcairn. She held on to her language, and I'll tell you, there is no other accent there. Guramaha Davrid. Anyway, the Irish national anthem, or Oran na Bhíon, was written by Padre Carney, and the music was composed between himself and Patrick Heaney on a melodeon. And I know that the Irish government has deemed the harp to be the national instrument of Ireland. I think they should have the melodeon, really, because more people play the melodeon. But before we had Oran na Bhíon, or the Irish soldier song, we used to sing Let Éireann Remember. But there is the poignancy of the Oran na Bhíon, or the soldier song, that this was sung by the freedom fighters in the GPO, and that Patrick Heaney and Padre Carney were part of that entire movement. So in honour of them, I'm going to do this in Irish. Oran na Bhíon. Shadiva chorda buanogui karemach brivor kjolvor Ardin teknav gabuakachata som speir gamin reltogach nach van bor fiachwer shin chun glo gacho nor trem revairi lo Sagunis have Samni Yershu Shaliv Kani Oran na Bhíon Shinifion na foil Atofial Egeiden Bwin Dar Slu Artir the Honig Queen Favor de Vesser Shantir or Shincher Fasta Niak for Fintir on and off in Troll and noch the Rhine Zivar na Will Legan er Will Han Bos no Sil Fira nish grech is lavach na beler Shaliv Kani Oran na Bhíon. Patrick Pearse said, a country without its own language is a country without a soul. Tirgan tanga, tirgan anam. And as I've often said at many of the gatherings of where we proclaim and where we commemorate our ancestry and the Irish and the Irish contribution to the diaspora, I am always in awe of how many American-born who hold such a reverence for Ireland, who hold its history, its culture, and its traditions so near and dear to them, and promote it wherever they can, and help us, immigrants, do the same. Hats off to you, and thank you for what you do for all of us who come here seeking a new life, a new way of life. Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight, oh, the ramp birds we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave? Oh, the land of the free and the home of the brave. Karamila Mahagay. Oh my goodness, thank you so much for that. I'm a little sorry to be coming after. I'll stand up here. I'm Karen Canfield from the Board of Selectmen. Can't hear me? Sorry. How's that? You have to push the button. No. I'm Karen Canfield from the Board of Selectmen. I want to thank everybody for coming out here today. This has been a long day, as John said, this has been a long day coming, and so many people have made it possible to happen. But before I thank a couple more people, John covered most of them, and we'll try to keep it brief because in deference to COVID and to the cold. But I did want to also point out that we have some other distinguished guests. Senator Patrick O'Connor, who is here from the state legislature, as well as Katie Baxter is representing Representative Carney's office. He's serving over in active duty right now. So thank you folks for being here. Normally we would ask them to speak, but we are going to try to keep the program short for the reasons I said. John mentioned so many people that made this moment possible. And I won't go back through the whole list, but there's one he left off that deserves a special thanks, and that's John Sullivan himself for all of his leadership. So thank you for what you've done for this town and for our connections with Ireland. One thing that I do want to point out, that this, as important as this day is and this dedication, wait, before I say that, Mr. Danahy, would you please raise your hand? This is my former colleague, Board of Selectmen. He's been mentioned, but you're the one that should be up here right now, sir. What I was going to say before I forgot Mr. Danahy, forgive me, is that this is, as important as this day is the culmination of a series of very important steps that our community has been taking over the years, led in part by many of the people who brought this dedication possible, to strengthen our relationship with Ireland, but also to enhance our community, to draw more people to our community, to recognize not only our heritage, but what a great place it is to visit, to come and spend some time and hopefully some hard-earned money in our community to make it strength. And Brenda O'Connor has been very instrumental in working with the Irish government to create, which will soon to be launched, Irish Heritage Trail, and this will be an important stop. The trail starts in Boston and ends in Plymouth, but this is the punctuation mark where everyone hopefully will spend some time. So I wanted to make sure I thank everyone for that, and to put this in context, that as important as this day and this dedication is, it is part of a greater plan to honor both our community and our heritage. With that, I have the very distinct honor of introducing our guest. General Counsel Leisha Moore is here. She's here with her husband Michael and their beautiful daughter Anna. And she has been the General Counsel of New England since 2019. This is her first visit to Scituate, so we welcome you. She has served she's served Ireland all over the world. She served in Malaysia. She's served in Edinburgh. And I suppose I should call you doctor because she has a PhD in genetics from Trinity in Dublin. So, Dr. Moore. I've forgotten what else. She has a very long list and is very accomplished. We're very welcome. We very much welcome you to our community. It is your first time, but we hope that it is not your last, and we welcome you anytime that you come here. So without ado, I give you General Counsel Moore.
Okay, can you hear me? Yes, okay, so press the button. Thank you very much for that wonderful welcome. It is my first visit to Scituate, as the chairwoman had said. I was due to come earlier this year in April, but we all know what happened since then. But this is a really special and rare occasion to actually see people, get out and meet some people in person, and it is what a special occasion it is. I mean, I have been hearing about this monument and I have seen pictures of it, but I mean, just look at it. I mean, doesn't it look absolutely fantastic? And I know a lot of people have been thanked already, but I just really want to pay tribute to the Monument Committee and John Sullivan and the Board of Selectmen and the town of Scituate and everybody who has given of their time and their money to make this happen, because it just looks absolutely smashing, as we would say at home. It looks really wonderful. And you know, it is really very special that in this most Irish town in the US that a monument like this is being erected to remember what really was a very important event in Irish history. And as John mentioned, the town of Scituate started commemorating the Easter Rising in 2016, which marked the centenary, 100 years since the Rising. And in Ireland, we're in the middle of what we call the decade of centenaries, where we're remembering 100 years on a whole series of really transformative events in Irish history. And the Rising wasn't the first or the only one of those events, but I think it was really one of the most important, because even though the Rising, I mean, it was a failure. It was over inside a week, and all of the leaders were executed. It really transformed attitudes in Irish history in favour of a republic, because when the Rising was going on, and most people in Dublin, where most of the action took place, they weren't really in favour of the actions of the men and women in the GPO and the other locations. But what happened, I'm getting blown to bits here. It really is like Irish weather at the moment. But what happened after the Rising, after the leaders were executed and there were various other events, like thousands of people were arrested, it really changed attitudes of people in Ireland, and that together with other events around the First World War and attempts to introduce conscription in Ireland, they really changed people's attitudes. And when you saw the general election that took place in 1918, there was really an overwhelming majority for Republican parties. So you can really see the change in attitudes there. And then after that, of course, you had the War of Independence, the treaty that resulted in the partition of Ireland and the foundation of the state. So 100 years on, we're in the middle of remembering all those really important events. But it's really special that an event like 1916 is being commemorated here, because if you actually read the proclamation, it's not terribly long, but if you read it, it only refers to one country besides Ireland, and that's America. And that isn't an accident. It is that the signatories of the proclamation are calling on their brothers and sisters in America because they knew they would have support. And they were right. And I mean, that support has been steadfast in those 100 years since. I mean, I'm thinking of the support to Ireland, the economic support to Ireland, the generations links that are so strong in this town, and even, you know, with the legacy of all those events and the partition of Ireland, the establishment of Ireland and Northern Ireland and so forth, all through that American support has been really steadfast. I'm thinking about the people that contributed so much to peace in Ireland, especially politicians in this part of the world. Thinking of the Good Friday Agreement, that really, I mean, that would not have helped without the input of American politicians, people like Tip O'Neill, Ted Kennedy, Senator George Mitchell, and you know, that even goes on to this day, because I'm sure you're all probably aware of the Brexit negotiations that are still going on, even though Brexit has happened. Events have been sort of the news has been overtaken by COVID, but just in recent weeks, you know, events with Brexit have started to come to the fore, come to the news again. And even again, we're still seeing that support from politicians in America and people in America. And let me tell you, that is noticed at home. It is noticed and it's really appreciated. And for me, it is a legacy of those 100 years and those links that have stayed strong. So for me, you know, a monument like this, right, it's it's a monument to something that happened, over 100 years ago in Ireland. But as well, for me, it's a monument to all of those enduring links and the relationships that are still so strong. And they're nowhere, I think, stronger than here in Scituate. So it's just a real pleasure and a real honour for me to be here. And I just want to pay tribute to John Sullivan and the Monument Committee and everybody that made this happen today. It looks absolutely wonderful. Scituate looks absolutely wonderful. My first visit and definitely not my last. And thank you all for coming out here, wearing your masks. And I've seen some fantastic masks, by the way. I really have to up my mask action there. No, look, I look forward to coming back in more normal times whenever they are, and seeing more of Scituate and coming to see this wonderful monument again. So thank you all for coming to join us on this special occasion and for having me.
Consul General Moore, thank you very much for coming. It really is an honor and a tribute to our town that Consul General Moore was here to dedicate this. And as you may have read in the local papers, we're going to have a more formal dedication taking place on the 25th of April in 2021, when, God willing, we'll be able to congregate more freely. But if you could mark your 21 calendars for that date, you're all welcome to return on that day, and hopefully the Consul General will be back once again for the other anniversary of the actual start of the Easter Rising. So, on behalf of the Scituate Easter Rising Monument Committee and all of you here, I want to thank you very much for coming out.